Hey, good afternoon. It's Thursday, February 2nd, Groundhog Day, and welcome to my channel, Everyday Talk 24/7. And today, I want to talk about Groundhog Day. No big surprise there. Just a quick reminder, Q&A Fridays tomorrow. Keep sending the questions in, so we've got some great ones in already. If you have new ones, just send those, maybe even about today's video about weather. Just send those along. I'm excited to get into that with you. So today, Groundhog's Day. It has to do with weather. And that's what I want to talk about. Who is in control of the weather? Obviously, a groundhog is not in control, but it's a tradition that we've kind of gotten from medieval French and German history, combined with some Christian underpinnings. And it evolved to the point where in 1887 in Puxatawny, Pennsylvania, they actually held up a groundhog for the first time and determined that if the groundhog could see its shadow, if the shadow was available, then we had 6 more weeks of winter. If not, then we wouldn't. And that tradition has continued to this day. There's been a movie made about the day. But the big question is about weather. Now, obviously, the groundhog does not control the weather, but it's kind of a symbol for us that we want to know what's happening with the weather. So we're spending billions and billions of dollars trying to forecast the climate and figure out what's going on. Climate change is a big topic in this world today. And is it a good thing to be able to spend money so we can find out where these big storms are coming, whether we're going to have cold weather or whether we're going to have hurricanes or tornadoes? Yes, that's a good thing to do. But the mistake that we make is thinking I can go from that to actually controlling the weather. When in fact, as the Gospels tell us, we read in Matthew that the disciples are astonished that Jesus is Lord of the wind and the waves. Well, we've got several passages of Scripture that talk about God and the weather, but one of the most helpful, I think, is in Job 37. And it talks about God's specific control of the weather. Notice what's said here. God directs the snow to fall on the earth and tells the rain to pour down. I'm reading from verses 6 through verses 18. He directs the snow to fall on the earth and tells the rain to pour down. Then everyone stops working so they can watch his power. Instead of just being mad we can't do what we want, the weather needs to tell us about the great majesty and power of God. And we need to be humbly aware of that, because he can stop the rain, bring the snow, bring the floods and the winds. Those are all about what God's control is about. The wild animals take cover and stay inside their dens. The stormy wind comes from its chamber, and the driving winds bring the cold. God's breath sends the ice, freezing wide expanses of water. He loads the clouds with moisture, and they flash with his lightning. The clouds churn about at his direction. They do whatever he commands. Do you get that? The clouds do whatever he commands throughout the earth. He makes these things happen either to punish people or to show his unfailing love. We talk about wanting to hear from God or see God. What this passage is telling us is that God is displaying his might and his character all the time. Just look at the clouds, and I've got some videos on that. But the clouds moving, it's not random. It's not happenstance. It's God moving them to accomplish a particular purpose for a particular reason that he wants to bring about, either to show his wrath or to bless people. We don't always know which, but God's purpose is that. God is in control of the weather, not groundhogs, not our ability to think we can control the climate. God does these things. God is in control. And what this first portion of Job is telling us is, let's look at this and be blown away by God's power. Now notice the next few verses, verses 14 to 18. Pay attention to this, Job. Stop and consider the wonderful miracles of God. Do you know how to control the storm? You know how God controls the storm? And how he causes the lightning to flash from his clouds? Do you understand how he moves the clouds with wonderful perfection and skill? When you are sweltering in your clothes and the south wind dies down and everything is still, he makes the skies reflect the heat like a bronze mirror. Can you do that? You see what is being said here? God is the one who's in control of the weather. And he does that to cause us to think about him and his power and our smallness. See, the idea that we can control climate. Now, I'm not saying we should be irresponsible and all that. We need to be responsible, but ultimately, God is the one who controls the climate. We can't. This is God's domain. This is what Job is telling us. This is what the Gospels are telling us. God is in control of these things. That's what matters. This Groundhog Day, don't make the mistake of thinking that the weather is fickle like the groundhog predictions. They're right about 40% of the time. So 4 times out of 10, the groundhog is correct. Can't even do 50%. Sometimes our weather folks seem like that they have the same kinds of issues, even though they're a great blessing to us in many ways. But they can tell us how God is doing things, but they can't control it. We can't control it. And what the weather is showing us is the majesty and power and wonder of God. It ought to humble us. That's what happened with the disciples when they saw that Jesus commanded the wind and the waves. That's what the message of the book of Job is telling us so powerfully and so clearly. And that pointed question where Job is asked, can you do this, Job? Can you turn this heat on and off? God is the one that does that. God is the one that brings the rains or withholds the rains. God is the one that brings the mighty avalanches of snow or withholds the snow. All for the particular reason for us to give honor and glory and praise to him. We are dependent upon him. And the weather is one way of reminding us of that. So as this Groundhog's Day comes to an end, don't be thinking about the animals. Don't be thinking about what we can or can't do. Be thinking about the wonder and power of God. And then see the great blessing it is that every day when we see the clouds, when we feel the temperatures, when we see all the things that are happening weather-wise, God is showing himself to us. We feel the wind blow, even though we can't see it. We're warm or cold. We see the devastation of rain or the blessing of rain. Those things are all designed to point us to God and live humbly before him and stop trying, not only trying to control the weather, but stop trying to control our own lives, but live lives that are broken before God, where we know peace, where we know joy, and living wonderful honor and praise to the God of the universe. And that's the thought for this Groundhog Day. Thank you so much for being here today. Again, check us out every day, talk247.com. If you haven't subscribed, turn on post notifications. These videos will come right to you. And really looking forward to Q&A Friday tomorrow. So you have a great day. Thanks so much for being here. Bye-bye.